Yeah, feeling good in the neighborhood. We're back for another trip down memory lane. Movies down memory lane. Every other Saturday, the three friends that come together to talk their favorite movies, the movies that have had the most effect on them. How's everybody doing tonight?
Doing good. Been watching a lot of wrestling today.
Off the top of my elbow.
The Red Sox took second place in the American League East. I'm happy about that.
That's good, man. I don't want to talk about baseball. But good to see you guys. Of course, this is the show where we, us three friends, we've been doing this for a while together. We've been movie friends. We don't see each other in person ever, but we're friends, and we all love movies. And we come to this show to reminisce about films that have had profound effects on us. Not just our favorite movies, but movies that have a personal connection. Each time a new person in the group brings a movie to the table, and it's a movie that they're obsessed with. We have the Feelometer, which I'll take a second to bring up here, but we have the Feelometer that kind of shows what the where we're at. We got the Not For Me, I Respect It, Good Stuff, and Obsessed. And each person that brings this to the table, which tonight is Dan's pick, he's obsessed with the movie. And he's going to tell us why he is. And me and Andrew are going to kind of say, hey, where we're at. And if maybe our opinions has changed by the time Dan's talked about his thing. So, because sometimes when you talk about movies, it's infectious and you get upset. You can see why that movie's maybe better than you really thought. So it can change your opinion. So yeah, Dan, the movie you brought to us tonight is the 2015 Best Picture winner, Spotlight, based around true events of the Boston Globe, finding out kind of the big scandal, not really, I guess, a secret, but the scandal of the Catholic Church and the child abuse that was going on all through that. And we're going to get into it, but Dan, we'll start with you, of course. Why was this the film you chose?
Yeah, I'm actually from Lowell, Massachusetts, which is 45 minutes north of Boston. So that's considered part of the Boston Diocese. And if you know what the Boston Diocese is, it's the greater Catholic Church area around Boston. Each of the cities all have their own diocese. And they have a cardinal that's in charge of those then they have bishops and stuff. And that's how the Catholic Church is run, and the head of the Catholic Church is the Pope in Italy and the Vatican in Italy. So when I was growing up, I was brought up as a Catholic. I was baptized and stuff like that. And I had, I went to church till I was about 16. And I had a kind of a falling out with Catholicism. And so because we moved further away from our church and stuff like that. And there was other things to do. And I was just kind of interested in other things at that point. So my parents didn't force us to go to church and stuff like that. So I kind of fell away from religion and church and so forth. So as I got older, I had some down parts of my life, and I got back into Catholicism. And then I found that there weren't some nice people in it and whatnot. And then later in life, I worked for a church, and I've had a bad experience working for a church, even though I did like working for that church. So, but one of the things that really affected me about this movie is that this movie deals with true events that took place at the same time as 9/11. The 9/11 bombings in the World Trade Center in New York in 2001 were going on while this investigation of the Catholic Church and the Boston Diocese was going on at the same time. And nobody knew about this investigation by this special group of reporters for the Boston Globe called Spotlight. That's the name of the group of reporters that were, and I just thought that was fascinating how this is a world spanning, a national spanning story. When you watch the movie and you see what happens at the end of the movie,
it's global. It's actually global.
Yeah, it's global. Yeah, it's global. And I just thought that, like, as a child growing up as a Catholic in the Boston diocese, this really hit me strong, because I said to myself, wow, this could have been me if we didn't move to New Hampshire, we didn't stop going to church. Maybe this could have been me. I'll tell you, my father now, my why don't I say father, but it's priest. My priest. I'll tell you what his name is, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to put my name of my priest out there on YouTube, national YouTube. When I was a kid, he was a super nice guy and stuff, and I really enjoyed being part of the Catholic Church at that time until we moved away. But so the investigative part of this, of investigating Catholicism in the shady business, the shady dealings that priests have when it comes to pedophilia and abuse towards children, it really rocked me as an adult years later, about 15 years later. Well, 40 years later. Now that I think about it, about 40 years.
I was gonna say the movie came out in
not
that long ago, 10 years.
No. So like 40 years later, because I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s, and we moved away from Massachusetts. But the other aspect that really affected me a lot is the journalism aspect. I'm a film critic, and I own my own website. I'm the head film critic, and I'm the editor of them. So journalism means a lot to me. It does. And the fact that these guys went all out when it comes to their journalism parts of their lives, because this is what they did. They worked for the Boston Globe, and they had to get the right people. They had to get the right sources. They had to get the people that didn't want to be sources. They had to get people that didn't want to talk to them. And they had to convince lawyers to give them information. And they had to convince people that were abused as a child to give them information. And so besides the Catholicism and the Catholic Church aspect, there's a journalism aspect to this that, to me, you put those two together, and it really hits me hard as a Catholic who's fallen off from being a Catholicism and a journalist. I call myself a film critic. That's journalism as far as I'm concerned. And so the more I watched it, the more I thought about it, the more I just analyzed it, and all the nuances of it, it has affected me more and more and more as the years have gone on. And I just love it more as a movie, because it sheds a light on things that I think we needed to have light shed on in this country.
All right. Yeah. Well, I got some questions in my head we'll get back to, but before we do, Andrew, I know you're close to the neighborhood of where.
Very much so.
Yeah. So
very much so. Even when the movie came out, it was very much. And I was, just geographically wise, born and raised, living in about an hour south of Boston, in Rhode Island, which is very much considered kind of the younger brother of Massachusetts in many, many ways. So they very much share a kinship, I would say, both culturally and, geographically too. So 2002 is when this story broke. I would have been in, 8th grade, because it was, several months after 9/11. I would have been in 8th grade. Coincidentally, I was in Catholic school at the time. I was in Catholic school from middle school, high school, and a Catholic college. So it's very much, talk about close to home, as what Dan was saying, very much close to home to me as well. And yeah, it was an earth-shattering moment when that news broke in 2002. And this movie definitely brings up a lot of those early 2000s feelings and vibes, specifically if you are from this area. Rewatching this movie last night, what I really appreciate more about this movie, and maybe it's specific to me, it really, really captures this area very, very well, specifically Boston, when it comes to the power of religion, power of Christianity, and pretty much the power of the Catholic Church, not only in Boston, but in this region. Like Dan said, at the very end of this movie, they give you a list of like all of the areas that that were affected by what was going on, decades in the past and modern time up until this movie. And a lot of those areas are, in the Northeast corridor, you know what I mean? So this movie really captured Boston well repeatedly in this movie. When they're doing their investigation, like Dan said, they always come up to somebody who's like saying, what are you gonna, like, pretty much people saying the church is untouchable. You know what I mean? It's very untouchable. You can't, what are you doing suing the church? You're not going to win. What are you doing investigating them? You're not going, this isn't going to go anywhere. They're going to bury you. They're going to bury it. And they did do that for the longest time. So geographically being from this area, growing up in this area, living in this area as an adult, the Catholic Church still to this day holds a very big political, cultural, powerful hold on the community, all the way from like the very top, like cardinal wise, to the very bottom in terms of just like street level things. So this movie is very close to home to me, literally, geographically and emotionally. I was, growing up Catholic as well. Like I said, in this area, geographically, there's a lot of people who have immigrated, whose families have immigrated here from Western Europe, big time Catholic countries. Italy, obviously, where Rome is, Spain, Portugal, where my family's from, Ireland. A lot of big Catholic groups and people have been living in this area for decades. So the church has just ingrained itself within these communities up here. And this movie shows that every one of the victims that they were interviewing in this movie, it all started with like when they were really young kids, community priests, who were looked at as respected leaders of the community, because they're literally, you go like, I don't know, drive any 10 minutes in any direction, you're going to find a Catholic church. Like they're everywhere here. And it's not just like that in Boston. It's like that in Rhode Island too. And just this area in general, this
there's
95
literally
corridor.
Yeah, there's literally a scene where a guy, one of the investigators is in his house and he's like, oh, because he's like reading about one of the potential on the list, one of the people, one of the priests that was in trouble, and went on a suspension, and he ran down the road and around the corner, and there was the dude's house.
Yeah, there was
and
like
and they passed a church like within that reach of that house too.
Yeah, because they're like, I can, off the top of my head, my local church, which I grew up and went to, is 10 minutes from my house, not even. And then there's another one, like another 15 minutes. There's another one there. They're everywhere all around you up here, because they've been made for so long. And this area up here, New England area, is old world type of stuff. Like this, because this is where the country was founded and all that kind of stuff. So it's like hundreds of years old. So there's buildings that have just been here forever, and institutions that have been here forever. Catholic Church being one of them. And yeah, it's very, very powerful up here. To this day, it still is. Not as much as it used to. There've been a lot of church closings. There've been a lot of things like that. A lot of, especially the younger generation now, Generation Z and Generation Alpha, they are nowhere near as religious as some of the older generations, like millennials and then Dan's generation. It seems the further along people get, the stranglehold that religion has on young people has really waned. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of the things they talked about in Spotlight, because, it's 20, how many years has it been since 2002? Like
20
something years?
24 years, 23 years.
Yeah, so it's been that long for this story to matriculate. And what the movie just says at the very end is that this wasn't the only story that broke. There was like more stories after this. And even to this day, there are still uncovering stories like the ones that we were covering in Spotlight all over the world on a global scale. So that's why I think Spotlight is kind of an interesting movie, because it highlights something that is super important at the time, but also is still something that's concurrently happening. So it's a fascinating, almost historical look of a movie. Granted, there's a lot of, historical license taken, and, certain fictional things are made up for story and drama and things like that. But the heart of the movie is very much kind of evergreen. Yeah. Stephen, have you rewatched it for?
Yes. Yeah, I watched it. Yeah, I rewatched it for this. And I mean, I loved the movie at the time.
Mm.
I thought it was, for me, it's the movie doesn't hold a place when it comes to religion like you guys. I did grow up with religion, a little bit of religion, but we were Southern Baptist. So different mindset, a little bit hard. I mean, I don't know how harsh Catholicism is, but like there's a more like you go to hell if you do anything wrong in Baptist, Baptist kind of thing. So I eventually got out of that because of that sense of judgment. I didn't like that. But for me, it was more like what I found so great about this movie was more the filmmaking stuff and more like the, there's a lot of films that have covered journalism, like, of course, like All the President's Men's one of the most famous ones. But I would say this movie maybe even done that better than a movie like that. I think that the movie finds a way to pick the right conversations, the right pacing, the right actors to really like do this all really well. And in a way that keeps the audience engaged and keeps the audience not like thrown off. Like, cause sometimes you have movies like this and they say a lot of stuff, but it doesn't always connect. It feels like it's like a little all over the place. So you feel like you're having a hard time keeping up with it. And I think this movie does a good job of keeping the focus. Like it doesn't go off in too many different directions. It follows a thread and then it kind of like stays on that thread until we get some answers and then it goes to another thread. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't get too messy to where it can confuse the audience about who we're talking about or what we're trying to get to. And really, of course, at the heart of this is trying to uncover not just, the diabolical thing that happened to a few kids. At first, it started out as like, oh, we got 13 priests that we're going to investigate. But then it was like, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to sue the church. We're going to attack the system. And that's what that's one of the, Liev Schreiber plays the new kind of editor-in-chief character that comes in. And he's the one that spearheads like, hey, we're going to do this and we're not going to do it half-assed. We're going to go right at the church. We're not, and everybody's like, you're going to sue it's kind of a running joke at the beginning of the movie. Like, so you're going to sue the church. Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I guess we're suing the church. It's like, it all sounds ridiculous and bold, but ultimately what it does is that gives them the, and then he sticks spotlight on them. It gives them the motivation to do something, go after something bigger than they realized. And I think that the feeling that the team doesn't really understand how big this is what also puts us in their shoes, because like for us, we know what happens. We know how big it is, but they don't. And we can kind of go on that ride with them, figuring out how big this is and how it isn't just 13 priests. It's up to 90 priests in the area. It's a systematic problem. So, yeah, I definitely was compelled by the story, but I think that the pacing and the filmmaking, but was it Tom McCarthy?
Yeah.
Is what really made this movie like stand out and compelling for me when it came out in 2015.
Definitely agree, because the movie, like I don't think I'd watched it since it came out. I think I watched it, when it was doing like its critical Oscar award season run. I watched it then, and I probably watched it one more time when I got the Blu-ray some months later. But I don't think I've seen the movie in like 9 years. So revisiting the movie and kind of being introduced to a lot of the really high quality filmmaking elements in here. This is a tight screenplay. Yeah. Like a movie that's just about investigative journalism is incredibly riveting. And it's tough to do that because this is some old school journalism that's happening in here. Like they're having to go to like archives. They're having to go to like interview people at their houses. They're having to like do a lot of legwork in here, which from a modern day perspective, like I don't think journalism's done like that anymore. Like it's a lot of old school, like reading through archives and things like that. Everything is digital now. You know what I mean? So it's such a different world, but the movie made it riveting. The screenplay is really, really tight. The acting still holds up, like really extraordinary. Like I don't think Mark Ruffalo's had a role quite like this, perhaps since.
He's gone more over the top in recent years. I think a role he had recently before or after this was very similarly great. With the one he did with where he played the wrestler in that one movie,
Foxcatcher. Yes.
Foxcatcher.
Very
He plays
good.
a very kind of nuanced character in that I thought was great. But since then he's done some really big outlandish roles in films like
He's played twins in a TV show on HBO, a TV miniseries.
I didn't even know that.
Emmy for that. He won an Emmy for that, and he was great in that. Yeah, I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe kind of set him off in the wrong direction in a way, and he got back going into doing the things he needed to do when it comes to Fox.
Poor Things is one he recently did that was pretty standout.
Yeah,
well, I mean, he was great in the movie.
He was funny. He was funny.
And the other one,
I mean, I talked about the Kids Are All Right, but that was a long time ago.
Bong Joon-ho's film too recently, where he got to play another outlandish character.
Mickey 17.
Mickey 17.
Yeah,
so. Yeah. Poor Things, Mickey 17.
He's doing some different stuff, but
some other stuff. But he's really good in this movie.
Mike Resendez, he plays Mike Resendez in this, and he's got the line of the whole movie. It's time, Robbie. Yeah. When he says it's time, Robbie, you know it's time, Robbie.
You recently talked about a movie on another show that he was really good in. The Kids Are All Right. That was another one of that time.
That was 2010, so sometime before that. But Mark Ruffalo is a really good actor.
Yes.
But the Mike Resendez character is the one that I kind of connected to the most in this movie, because in a way that's very much me now. This kind of like, let's get these scumbags, let's stick it to them.
Well, he's the most obsessed of the group. He's
the zealot. He's the most like aggressive in terms of like, let's go get these guys right now.
Yeah.
I really like the Michael Keaton character because he had a journey in this movie because he wanted to do a good job as a journalist, right? But he also knew the establishment. He knew the establishment they were going up against, and he got caught up in it in years before and just kind of sloughed it off in one of the columns or put it in something, and it disappeared. And he understands that even he's the part of what's to blame, and now he's got a second chance at this, and he goes after his own friend, one of his own close friends, and it could literally ruin a friendship between these two because of the information that he needs to get out of this guy. And I mean, all of them, Rachel McAdams, like you said, you mentioned Liev Schreiber, I mean, all the I mean, Stanley Tucci as a lawyer, like a different race lawyer who's defending the abused children as adults, and they're coming in and he's having to defend all these children, and he's got a difficult case because he thinks he's got like an uphill battle going up against the Catholic Church. You know what I mean?
Well, he's dealt. He already knows the case. He just doesn't have the ability to take it on by himself.
Yeah,
he didn't have the backing.
He doesn't have the firepower to take on the Catholic Church. Like I said, up here, Catholic Church reigns supreme. They were literally invincible up until this story broke.
Like, it's essentially the government. It's like going against the government. It's
like honestly probably bigger because they can run the government.
Go up against the establishment, whether it's the government, whether it's a big corporation or what. We've seen it for years of lawyers and small people going up against a big government organization or a corporation, or in this case, an establishment that's like a government.
They can just wait you out and just kill you.
They got so much money.
They can bury you into obscurity, which is what
litigation
happened for decades. As we saw with Spotlight, when they were starting to uncover these things and whatnot, that it went back literally decades. Just in that area, let alone going back to who knows. I mean, as being a history buff and just knowing kind of the ascension of the power of the Catholic Church on a world scale, things like this were probably happening for centuries, across the globe. The fact that it kind of broke in Boston on the Boston Globe, of all places, is kind of interesting.
And at that time,
at that time,
like if this story had broke 5 years earlier or 5 years later, it would have been a massive, massive story. But because it broke right in the middle of 9/11, it got it got swept under the rug, even though there was over 500, close to 600 articles written about this thing that happened.
It's obviously like for today's world, it's a conversation also about how the news cycle is so quick that things like this get swept under the rug just because of the news. It gets perpetuated every day that we get so much of it, and so much of it that we don't even need to hear probably.
Like
That the actual important stuff,
I apologize. It was weeks and weeks and weeks of 9/11 stuff. And
sure.
It's like,
oh yeah.
God, I mean, when is this going to end? And it didn't.
Yeah.
Which is
but
really,
but what I'm saying is in general, it can be a comment on just how the news cycle has kind of killed the impact of journalism like this when it needs to count. Like when they put this much effort in and broke such a big story, it's kind of upsetting how anything. I mean, this isn't just something. This doesn't just happen when 9/11 happens. It happens now when nothing's going on. And something comes out that's like a big deal, and then within a couple months, they've come up with something else to take its place that doesn't have any importance at all. It could just be a celebrity, getting in trouble because he cheated on his wife, and then that's enough headlines.
We know that 15 minutes of
and it's a lot different now than it was back. Yeah, it's a lot different now than back in 2002.
24 hours. It's a 24-hour cycle now.
Social media.
Social media is the big thing. Yeah.
So even back then, for a news thing to kind of have any staying power, it really had to be something big, and it really had to be something that people were talking about constantly. What's interesting is I don't know if you caught it like early on in the movie when Liev Schreiber character takes over. There's already concerns about digital kind of taking over newspapers and how people weren't buying newspapers anymore. And this is 2001,
Layoffs.
And I'm like, by now, I mean, newspaper is a pretty dying industry at this point. Maybe even dead. I would say dead, because all newspapers are kind of digital now. Like I don't see a lot of people carrying around newspapers anymore like they used to. So it's a very interesting how this movie is almost like a time capsule of that time as well, culturally. Even specifically for the area of Boston, which has changed so much since. I like that they also shot on location and stuff like that. That really gave it an authentic feel.
Those streets and the areas looked authentic to Boston. The area that they were the show took place in. And obviously the school across the street from the Boston Globe played a key part, which was Boston College High School. And then you get the sign of the Boston Globe and you see them. So that stuff really was really good. It really hammered some of the stuff home.
So where the Boston Globe is situated, I don't know if they've moved. I'm pretty sure it's the same place. They're like, you can see the Boston Globe from the highway. Every time you drive up to Boston, you go 95 north to 93, takes you right into Boston. That's how you get to the Logan Airport. That's how you get into downtown Boston. That's how you kind of just go to Boston in general. You can see the Boston Globe right off the highway, and you can see the highway in one of the shots where they're pulling into the parking lot. And I think it may have been the shot where like Michael Keaton's in one car and Mark Ruffalo's in another car, and you can see the highway in the background. I'm pretty sure that's 93 that goes right into Boston. So yeah, I like the fact that they actually shot there and they didn't use like another city to like dupe for Boston, which they do that for New York City a lot because it's expensive.
Cleveland, Toronto, they do that for New York all the time.
Even for LA, they use like Vancouver, and it's like really not the same.
They do. But
I think.
Go ahead, Stephen.
I was gonna say, I think for me, because you brought up some characters, favorite characters, the Matt character, who's kind of like, one of the other lesser parts of the group, he doesn't get as much attention, but the main scene for me, when he has that scene where he figures out that there's a priest that lives right around the corner from his house, and he runs down the road and finds the house, and then he leaves the note on the fridge to his kids to not go by that house. I was like, as a parent now, I'm like, dude, I get that shit. Like I would be doing that shit too. Actually, I'd turn into a stalker of the guy that lived there to make sure he didn't go anywhere near my kids.
Right.
So like that,
Yes, that's actually true. But I think in real life, he put a picture of the actual priest on his fridge. Yeah. And I think they changed in the movie to just a picture of the house. and just told him to stay away from it. I do like that scene that they did actually come back to that, where he asked the Michael Keaton character, I just found, like you said, I just found like literally right around, there's one of these therapy places right around the corner from my house. Should I tell the parents in the neighborhood about it? And it's a very interesting moment. It's like on a journalistic level, what do you do? Like, because Michael Keaton at that point he doesn't want to release the story, release things yet. He wants to build bigger and bigger, so he doesn't want to let anything out of the box.
Yeah.
Well, that's where the journalism comes in, Andrew. That's why and look, I have all the President's Men behind me on the wall, and I think that's one of the best journalism movies I've ever seen in my life. Until I saw Spotlight, he wanted to wait until he had. In journalism, you have to have two sources, and they wanted to make sure they had enough sources to where the church and the bishop, the cardinal, couldn't get out of it. And that's when his buddy, Michael Keaton's buddy, became that source. When they had the files, they had the one lawyer, then they had Michael Keaton's buddies. They had those books with that detail, all those information in those books where they have the designations of changing the priest from and that sort of stuff, sick leave and all that stuff. They had the information. Once you had all that information, that's when the journalism, to me, I loved how the journalism of the movie was spot on, and it was really important to the overall film. And they made it, journalism means something, and they made something that isn't, like you're saying, Andrew, a dying breed. Physical newspapers mean something. When you saw those trucks at the end and the paper going through the thing, and then you see the trucks being loaded and the trucks going out with the paper, I love it. And that's the exact same color of the Boston Globe trucks.
Yeah, that's very true.
Brilliantly done by
the other lawyer in the movie, played by Billy Crudup, which we haven't mentioned. Nice small role from Billy Crudup, because he's what an interesting character. He plays like smirky really, really well, like smirky and slimy kind of really, really well. And like the way they have to like keep going back to him and going at him, and he can't say anything, so he's trying to say things without saying things. I thought that was all like really good back and forth scenes.
I think the way I interpret his approach with the character is, I find he's like, he cares, but he's cynical. Like he's the cynical.
He's a realist.
He's cynical and realistic about what's going on here. So he doesn't feel like anything he can do will really help them. Yeah. So he just is for the most part standoffish until he just gets kind of backed into a corner where he gives them a crumb to send them in the right direction.
He also doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds, because he defends these people and gets deals, and that he gets paid privately from the church for the deals he makes for these. Sure. So he's making boatloads of money out of it.
And what I love about those scenes is when they keep going back to him, it's like they're digging deeper and deeper into the corruption, into the villainy, into the disgusting behavior of the bureaucracy that exists within the church, and how just deep it goes to like depraved levels just to not sully the good name of it all. And when they have that scene of like, Rachel McAdams goes to the courthouse to get the records, and the records don't exist, it's because they made private deals with the church, and they weren't on any sort of legal binding records. And even which records that did exist, the church literally took from the courts, so they don't have the physical copies. And it's so deep.
And to get a judge to side with them to go get those
in Boston,
like really hard.
Good luck.
They finally got a judge to side with them. That was a difficult when that happened. And then finding where the records are, it's just like, it's so like ingrained in the community, that cardinal law, and that's what makes it so difficult.
Yeah,
And
how many
everybody,
scenes did we see of Michael Keaton being approached by people, or that specifically that one guy who was doing like the fundraising the fundraiser that he went to or whatever, that he ran some type of like Catholic league or whatnot, and the guy
oh,
was
he's the
like,
principal of the
Cardinal
school. He was,
Law's done a lot of good for the community up
yeah,
here. You wouldn't
yeah.
want to, say anything bad about him or dig anything up bad about him because it may hurt the people he's doing good for. It's like a lot of that, like saying things without saying things plainly goes on a lot in real life. Where people just imply things versus coming out and saying it. Like passive aggressivism, essentially.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 What
I mean, it's
what questions did you have? You said you had some questions for me though, Steve. I'm curious to what you were going to ask.
well, I would like to know at least what if you could talk about it. What part of your religion experience turned you off that connects you with this story? Like, because I mean that's a big part of what's supposed to be what's so personal for this about you. So does I'd like to know because I'm assuming you didn't get sexually molested.
No, I didn't. But my
Yeah.
pastor was my priest was. I had an older priest and a young priest, and I was in the hospital a lot when I was a kid. So, and I had a hockey helmet on my head until I was. So my memory is really cloudy on that. But I just remember going to church, and we were poor, and it's just like I just didn't have any kind of like interest in just wanting to like believe in anything because I had at that point in my life I just was like I just felt like nothing's gonna save us. We're just in such bad shape. It doesn't matter if we go to church or if we don't go to church or whatever. And then we eventually moved to the next state and we stopped going to church because our church, St. Patrick's, which was in Lowell, was too far to go to. And we didn't want to go to another church because that was our church. You know what I mean? That was with our priests and stuff like that. And then I just over the years I've found that and I didn't think about it, but there's become like fanatical Catholics. And when I had a really rough time when I'm in my mid to early 30s, I had a rough time. I got back into Catholicism and I started believing in Jesus and in the Lord and stuff like that. And then I had these people that were just like gung-ho in my face all the time. Everything you have to do, everything you have to say is all about religion and stuff like that and God and this and that and the other. And I just come to find that Catholicism wasn't my thing. So I kind of saved myself. My parents kind of saved us kids. Who knows if that would have happened to us? If we would have stayed there in Lowell where we lived and we kept on going to church every Sunday and we were looking for some savior, we were looking for someone to help us. Maybe I was looking for a father figure because as an adult, I found that's what I looked for a lot. And I found it in coaches, basketball coach, football coach, bartender, people like that became like a father figure to me. So back then, if I had consciously thought about looking for a father figure, I probably would have went to my priest. And it's really moving away to the next state probably saved me and my brothers. I don't know, because my younger brother did go to Catholic school all the way up until 8th grade. Didn't matter what state we went. He went to the local Catholic school and he went to Catholic school and stuff. So, I mean, it just, I'm just thinking how close I came to possibly having something like this happen to me. You know what I mean? Because my father wasn't there for me and my brothers because he was out drinking, he was out carousing, he was spending his paychecks and not taking care of his kids, Yeah.
No,
so it's really rough
that.
for me. That's why this hits home for me because these kids, you can see how disturbed some of the guys are as adults that they had to talk about what they've been through. You know what I mean? It really hit me. It really hit me hard as a kid. But then the journalism stuff was really powerful for me. I mean,
well, yeah, like you said, you're not a. These are investigative journalists.
Yeah,
This is technically, you're a journalist, but you're more of a writer.
Yeah,
Journalism's more, journaling.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, it's the same thing, but it isn't. It's
No, I know.
But
it's a world that I respect quite a bit.
No. You have a lot of respect for it because there takes a certain amount of discipline and tenacity, things you have to do. You have to stay on top of it. You have to be
get sources. Sources aren't easy.
No, not so. You have to be able to talk to people. You have to be able to empathize. You have
get
to be able
information out of people, and they don't want to give it to you.
Sure, but you have to do it in a way that they want to give it, because it's just like being a lawyer. Like, you can't coerce anything. You have to get it with their permission, or you can't do it. You have to get it with their trust behind it. So, but yeah, I can see how that's relatable for you. I'll say right now, on the Feelometer, for me, I definitely put this at good stuff. Before and after this conversation, I'm not obsessed with this movie. I do, enjoy it a lot. It is probably maybe my favorite of this genre. Honestly, if I had to think about it right now, it really is up there for me. But I'm not obsessed with this movie. It's not something that has a personal stake with me. But I really do like it a lot. It's great. Andrew, where do you stand?
It's tough. It's tough for me because I do give it quite the high rating on Letterboxd. By high, I mean like 5. So I did, because I had rated it a 5 out of 5 when I initially saw it, over 10 years ago, and it's still that good to me now. As a movie, it's still that good. Like I said, the writing's tight, the acting's really good, the direction's really, really good. The movie's themes are pretty darn timeless. So I am pretty much up there at obsessed, I think. Steven, did you notice that obsessed is misspelled on the Philometer?
It's possible because
there's no S in it. Obsessed. There should be an S.
I see that.
I think we discovered a new word.
Yeah. A best. It's a best.
It is a best.
Yeah. I will fix that. But yeah, so
yeah, let me just say
I see how you feel. I mean, it's
still a really good movie. Like, we've talked about recently how I think we talked about on the last show, like, certain Best Picture winners kind of fade and don't really have that staying power. Spotlight, for me, I think still has that staying power upon a rewatch.
And this is one of the things I haven't had a chance to talk about yet before we go. This was not supposed to be the winner of Best Picture in that year. That was supposed to be The Revenant. This was an upset. But I remember to this very day, Stephen, because I used to watch these entertainment shows, Access Hollywood and all these shows. And at the time, Access Hollywood was hosted by a guy by the name of Billy Bush. And Billy Bush had Scott Mantz, who since have become a friend of mine, and I know Andrew's very enamored with Scott as well. They had a bet on a show when they bet for Best Picture. Scott Mantz and Billy Bush bet for Billy Bush goes, I'll bet you $100. I said it's The Revenant all day long. And Scott Mantz goes, I'll bet you $100 Spotlight wins. Because he had seen Spotlight already. And Billy goes, oh, are you kidding me? You're crazy. I'll take that bet all day long. Takes the bet, obviously Scott. And the next time I saw them on, he hands him $100. You see him hand him the $100. And so that was a funny moment in the story of Spotlight in a way. But nobody thought that Spotlight was going to win Best Picture. But Scott Mantz did. And in hindsight, it may have been considered an upset at the time. Look at the movies in the last 15 years and see which ones that stand up today as Best Picture winners that you could go back and still have a legitimate feeling when you watch them. Spotlight's one of the few that you could do that with. And the other thing is, you look at the moments, like when you're watching this movie, it has those moments that just eye-raising, emotional moments where as it's going one by one, and it goes, and it's like that movie where you say, wow, this gets better and better and better as it goes until it hits that crescendo at the end. And when you get those lists of names and you get all that information and all that stuff, it's just, and then you get him saying, hey, we did this and it's out there, but it's not over. We got to keep working. And those moments are just like priceless moments for me. And when you talk about the greatest Best Picture winners of all time, I just think this is going to stand up as one of the greatest of all time years to come because of what it's trying to say about religion, journalism, the human condition. You know what I mean? Not just because I love it and I have a genuine feeling for it because I'm a Catholic and I'm a journalist. I think it's going to hold up. I think last year's Honora, I don't think that's going to hold up that well. That's just my 2 cents.
You have to go in and attack Honora during this podcast.
You wouldn't be the only one. People, that's a divisive movie online. I wasn't aware of.
I liked it. It was 6 on my top 10 list last year.
Like we were saying, there are a lot of Best Picture winners that they would kind of fade, don't really hold up the test. But this one is kind of one that does. But Dan is kind of right that it is a kind of not an obscure win, but just to give people some context of that year. This only won 2 Oscars, was nominated for 6. It only won for Best Picture and Best Screenplay. And that was it.
The 2 that it should have won.
So 2, I mean, I think it was one of the, I know, Stephen, you've talked about this before many times, that now the Academy Awards kind of like, they kind of spread out the love. They kind of divvy up, like, you get one for this, you get one for that. They kind of divvy them up a bit.
Popularity contest.
This year was kind of like that.
Well, I could make a debate for this, and this is something that I'm sure this could be. I mean, God, I don't even know if I want to bring this up because Dan will start fucking talking for the next hour about it. But there's something to be said about the fact that when we started opening up the Oscars for more nominations, that it devalued the awards itself to where the winners are a lot less. There's a lot more like less bang for your buck every year. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like sometimes we're just giving these awards out just for diversity's sake, getting all different types of movies to get involved. And now when we go from 5 movies to 10 movies, now it's like some movies get in this conversation that I don't think would have ever gotten in the conversation otherwise. And so it's like, I think that's why maybe sometimes we get a movie win Best Picture that, maybe would have never been as, I don't know. It's maybe I'm wrong, but
then you get a spotlight that becomes the #1 movie of the century from the New York Times poll that they put out, and hundreds of people voted on that, and it was voted the #1. So sometimes it happens.
The these award shows are bullshit anyway. There's no legitimacy in like what the best thing is. Anyway.
I meant to say Parasite. My bad. I meant to say Parasite.
I would say I think Parasite was.
Yeah, I meant to say Parasite. It was my bad. I misspoke.
I think what's interesting is I rewatched Parasite recently. That holds up as well too.
Yeah.
Well,
Parasite,
I think
yeah.
Before we get, I don't want us to go on a tangent on this, but honestly, I think the ultimate scheme of things is movies like this don't hold up for most people that have won Oscars lately because nobody watches movies the same way anymore. It's an overall like how people perceive cinema. It's not this. People don't look at the newer generation is not watching movies for the same reasons that we watch movies. And they're not, and a lot of the filmmakers are not making films for the same reasons they used to make films for. So I think it's really just the atmosphere around cinema has changed so much that we don't hold the movies that win Best Picture at the same light as we used to.
Well, we were just talking about the news cycle, how things move so fast. The entertainment industry, movies wise, what's hot one week is forgotten the next.
Exactly.
We see that with the box office all the time. One week, 100 million. Next week, we're just moving on to the next big one. You know what I mean?
And just
movies and entertainment, TV shows. We're just moving. We're moving right along because there's so much of it.
There's so much of it that it muddies the waters, and we forget about the things that we thought were so great before. Or the opposite example, movies that didn't do well at all at the box office, then they go on Netflix and they're like, it's the highest streamed thing ever. You're like,
I love when I see people saying, oh, why did nobody watch this when it was out in theaters? And I'm like, it was there. You just chose not to.
Your mind was so much, you were too busy paying attention to whatever the fucking sequel or remake that came out. And then this thing came out, and you couldn't.
And then there's the opposite take, which happens so fast, where a movie comes out, everybody loves it, and then 2 weeks later, people already online are bashing it. And I'm like, how did we get from A to Z so fast?
Because
The reevaluation's happening so fast.
It's because there's too many things coming out, too much things that don't need to be made, and yeah, it's just it muddies the waters, and we can't actually appreciate some great stuff and that's out there and hold on to it at all. It's all, you know, it's whatever.
That's why this movie means so much to me, is because I feel like it was a well-deserved winner of the Academy Award and Best for twice, and what it's about means something. You know what I mean?
I mean, well, that, and it's just, it has, I think for me, and I think for Andrew and you as well, like, it has been able to stand above all the muddy water of like just bullshit that's come out the last 10 years. It still stands up as like one of the great Best Picture winners of this last 10 years. And we can still talk about it and be passionate about it. And I wish I need to see it more in the community. Yeah, I need to see more people talking about it, but it's, you know.
Yeah, 2015 might as well have been 3 lifetimes ago in the terms of movies.
It was actually a decent year for Best Picture nominees.
Well, I mean, just think about probably the most untalked about one of the last 10 years, because it came out during the pandemic. Coda. Nobody talked about that. It's completely off the map. Nobody cares.
Every time I watch it, though, I cry.
It is. I like it too, but
I like the movie too, but I think there's a lot of other kind of extenuating circumstances. The fact that you can only watch that streaming still is still kind of baffling to me. Like, it's been like years now, but they still haven't done anything physical.
But I think to cap it also, like I think it's the mentality of society. Everything's about moving forward and not looking back. No, but people only want to be nostalgic if it's like comic books or like entertainment. Like, in a way, like it's entertainment that's popular culture, they'll look back on it, but everything else, sweep it to the side. Say we're
going. Just like you said, to cap it off, the one thing you got to remember, what I love about movies is we do get directors that have a nostalgia, or they have a belief in something, or something, they find something that they like, and they just go out and they say, this needs to be turned into a movie, and then we'll have that forever. And the fact that now, because of Tom McCarthy, we have this movie for the rest of our lives, and we'll never not be able to watch Spotlight and be reminded about the terrible things that happened during this time and the great job that these journalists did.
Well, let's just hope that society continues to be curious. That's the main thing, is we need people to be curious and want to investigate things as film people, and we need that to continue. So, but that is our discussion on Spotlight. I think that was a pretty more intense than I expected it to be. We went really into a lot of different areas, and but it is a great film, and I think if you haven't checked it out, or you haven't watched it in a while, you should revisit it. It's really good. So next week it is me. Yes. So I have like a whole list of options that I want to do. But I decided to go with a film for my choice next episode that I wanted to go ahead and get it in, because it kind of coincides with the time of year we're in. We're all 3 baseball fans. We love baseball. So I wanted to do this baseball movie because it's probably my favorite baseball movie. And it really does mean a lot to me in a lot of ways. So I wanted to talk about this film, and that is 1989's Field of Dreams. So Kevin Costner is the lead here. This was nominated for Best Picture in the year it came out. So I'm excited to bring this one in to talk, because and I think it'll be a very passionate one, because I think all of us love sports, or I love baseball, and I think also the other themes of this story and the magic of this story makes for a lot of good things to talk about. So be excited to bring that down memory lane next week, or not next week, but next episode, 2 weeks from now. If you have not already, subscribe. Follow us here on the channel with Chasing Labels. Of course, once a month you have the Unwatched Pile. Dan has his website. If you want to go follow his reviews,
From thefourthrow.com.
There it is. And you can also find this show every other week. You'll find us in 2 weeks from now. And of course, also on the audio platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. And all right. Well, I think that'll do it for us.
Don't forget Chasing Labels on Monday.
Yep.
Which we'll be getting into all of the Vinegar Syndrome partner label stuff. Imprint has some releases from their Asia line. Umbrella's got their releases, I think, for November already. I can't even think of November. And yeah, we'll be getting into all kinds of stuff, and that'll be coming up this Monday in a couple of days. But obviously, if you're listening to this in the future, go back and watch that episode too.
All righty. Well, with that said, take a trip down memory lane. I don't know. I still don't have a good ending for this, but don't forget about your movies. Love them. Bye.